Today, my brothers, we go to frozen land of Kislev. It's very nice. It's going to be fun, Davai. So today, guys, we are going to talk exactly about Kislev. In fact, we're going to talk about the Ice Queen, Tzarina Katarin. Now, this is going to prelude a series of videos about Kislev. So if there's some things you don't quite understand, like maybe ice magic, which we'll talk about a little bit, then you expect that in some of the videos coming out that I have planned for y'all. So today we're going to talk about, again, Tzarina Katarin, the Ice Queen of Kislev. And this comes directly out of it's quite actually an old... it was like a White Dwarf supplement. It was called Allied Contingent, and it included Kislev. So we'll have some fun here, and we'll go through our typical kind of lore blurb, as always, talking again about the special rules, as well as the magic items that make up Tzarina Katarin. From the icy fastness of her capital city of Kislev, the Ice Queen Katarin rules her land with an aloof majesty. The daughter of the fiery and charismatic Tsar Boris, she ascended to the throne in 2517, following her father's death in battle, whilst leading an army north of the Lynx in the Troll country. She is the latest in a long line of Tsarinas descended from the ancient Khan queens of the Gospodars, the powerful tribal group that migrated west centuries ago and became the dominant peoples of what was to grow into the nation of Kislev. A great wizard in her own right, her power is said to come from the land of Kislev itself, its icy soul and bleak tundra giving her command of the elements and mastery of what form of wizardry known as ice magic. Indeed, some whisper that she is in fact the living reincarnation of the very first Khan queen, Mishka. So complete is her grasp of the dangerous branch of magic. Upon her ascension to the throne of Kislev, it is said that the Bokha palaces have grown a new wing, half a mile long, made entirely from glittering ice. This wondrous creation would be beyond all but the most powerful ice mages, and it is here that Katarin remains for most of the time, granting audiences in an immense chamber of magically woven hoarfrost. Some believe that she simply prefers the chill of these frozen corridors, while others say that it is a display of her power to overawe would-be enemies and foreign ambassadors. Where Tsar Boris was a man who preferred to lead from the front and was renowned for his courage and leadership, the Tzarina, in keeping with her icy powers, is aloof and remote, preferring to work through agents and generals. Only under the direst circumstances does the Tzarina join her armies, known in Kislev as polks, but when she does, it is often upon a mighty steed whose flanks shimmer with glittering ice crystals, and whose breath is the winter wind, or riding in an armored sled drawn by a team of identical beasts. On those rare occasions when she leads her army in battle, the devotion lavished upon her is beyond that which might be expected of such a remote and cool ruler. Her power over the elements is clear proof that the blood of the Khan queens flows in her veins. The Ungals of the north fear and respect her as one of the ancient warrior witches from their oldest myths. A time is coming that will see the Tzarina on many a battlefield before the year is out. Marauding tribes of Kurgans and Kayak push south in ever-increasing numbers, united behind the banners of their czars and hetzars. The sheer scale and ferocity of these raids has prompted the dispatch of a number of contingents from the Empire to aid Kislev. Artillery from Nuln, mercenary companies from Tilia, Wissenland Pike, arquebusiers from Averland, Nordland halberdiers and knightly orders, all manners of troops from all across the lands. The writings of Ansprocht of Nuln names this time as the Spring Driving, an innocuous term that encompasses a time of unremitting horror and bloodshed. Masses of northern marauders are sweeping down into Kislev, butchering everything in their path. Many battles have already been fought, and the Kurgans have razed several towns in Stanistas, Choika, Zvetka, and others that appear on no maps. The polks have scattered into the old oblast, though many boyars are rallying their forces to fight once more. But as more and more marauders drive south, it is certain that the days of blood are not yet over. So, that's pretty intense, right? And we talked a little bit about Boris and how I guess he could be included in a Kislev army. He clearly Tzarina I keep wanting to say Tzarina of Tokyo from the movie Three Musketeers, and that's just wrong. That's just fucking wrong. But Tzarina Katarin, we know she's already in the game, right? We see her leading Kislev. So that kind of assumes that Boris is dead. And we've talked about this before, but in the timeline, Boris is not yet dead. 2517 hasn't happened yet. As far as if we take a look at where the game starts. Total War Warhammer 1 starts with Karl Franz ascending to the throne, which is right before Tsar Boris passes away, whatever you want to call it. So there's a lot of ways they can kind of incorporate these two lords into the game, but let's talk mainly about Tzarina because she's the focal point of this entire video. But she has her weapons and equipment. Tzarina Katarin carries the sword of the ancient Khan queens, Fear Frost, and wears the Crystal Cloak. She is mounted on a warhorse. Despite what the lore would have described, it just says warhorse. So maybe there's going to be a special line of mounts for Kislev. I really want to see not boars, but bears, because when we talk about Boris, you'll see that he rides a bear. But it would make a lot of sense to me if they had something different, or even these horses that they kind of talk about in the lore, right? Let's see here. Often upon a mighty steed whose flanks shimmer with glittering ice crystals and whose breath is the winter wind. So that kind of makes it sound like it's some sort of cool frost steed that maybe gives frostbite and everything around it. That'd be really cool, right? Where you've got these lords that are on these mounts that are otherwise just normal horses, but the mounts themselves maybe have the same kind of effect that the Frostworm does for, I almost said Kislev, but for Norska, where it does give that constant area effect slow. That'd be really kind of cool and a different way to approach what would just generically be an otherwise typical Empire clone, but we'll go into how Kislev is not an Empire clone in any way, but that is time for another video. So she is a level 4 wizard, meaning she's kind of like on par with some of the higher level casters of the game, and she uses ice magic, which we'll cover in another video coming up here soon, but just keep in mind she is the only real big ice mage in the lore, period. So, well, at least existing lore. She has some special rules here that kind of that maybe hint towards certain campaign buffs or certain things. So, beloved of Kislev, the people of Kislev are utterly devoted to the Tzarina and would gladly lay down their lives for her. Any Kislevite unit joined by the Tzarina becomes stubborn, and all Kislevite units within 12 inches of the Tzarina may re-roll failed psychology tests. Which way I would kind of look at this and how I would kind of compute this from a Total War Warhammer perspective is like maybe she has a constant leadership bonus above and beyond, or maybe her red line of buffs, or I'm sorry, her yellow line of buffs that are specific to the Tzarina kind of overall deal with the leadership of the army, maybe giving stubborn as an activatable or immune to psychology as an activatable in the same way that we see with Grombrandal, where he can kind of control map wide, choosing to make it so no one flees. And I'd really like to see that, because you're going to assume here that if this is somewhat of a similar army to the Empire, you're not going to get very high leadership. In fact, taking a look at this, their core units have leadership 8 and 7, and we talked about this before, where 10 is pretty outstanding, 7 and 8 is pretty not that great. So it's not nearly as bad as the ogres with like a standard leadership of 5, but still, they're not going to have outstanding leadership, so they're going to need some sort of pinion that keeps them grounded. And I think that Tzarina really acts that way and does have those abilities that bolster the people. Now, another one of her special rules, Protectors of the Khan Queen. If the Tzarina Katarin is taken as a leader of your allied contingent, then the restriction on Griffin Legion units is waived, meaning that she would give some sort of bonus to Griffin Legion, which are specific units to the Kislev. They're basically kind of like light, fast attack units, but they're even like stronger. They're not like the typical like fast attack, like say your Illyrian Reavers. They've got a little bit more shock to them. So like fast attack shock cavalry, probably the best way to kind of look at them, and makes them a little bit more, I guess you could say, heavier hitting. And that's what's kind of interesting about them. They do have heavy armor, and they're kind of like the typical Lancer. Like, I don't want to say like a Cossack. Like you see like Kislev Cossairs is an actual unit. And it's not like them, obviously, but it would be definitely your kind of different take on the heavy cav, fast cav type situation you got going on here. So she would give some sort of bonuses to them, either as maybe a recruitment or an upkeep reduction, something of the sort, because it kind of falls in line with her special rules. Now, Fear Frost, this is one of her magic items. Forged by the ancient Khan Queen Mishka of the Gospodars, this blade has passed from Tzarina to Tzarina through the ages. Only a Tzarina can wield the blade, and were a man to lift the blade, he would find himself frozen to death within a heartbeat. The blade is infused with ice magic, and the intense cold can kill with a single scratch. So really cool, right? So basically what it means is any unit she's got Killing Blow, which we've seen equated to AP and anti-infantry, and models wounded but not killed outright by Fear Frost receive no saving throw but may take ward saves as normal, meaning it just kind of ignores armor. So maybe this is an ability that has a very high AP, and for a caster, maybe she needs that to kind of get outside of trouble quickly. She does not have good combat stats. She has terrible combat stats, in fact. I mean, her weapon skill is 4 in the game, meaning that majority of rank and file, like a Chaos Warrior, has got the same weapon skill as her, to give you a perspective on what that means from a tabletop perspective. So don't expect her to have this crazy cool melee attack. Maybe they'll kind of change Fear Frost to actually be more of a free arcane conduit, or something that bolsters her ice magic, something of the sort. Because, you know, since the blade is infused with ice magic, you know, kind of looks almost like an enchant, but maybe she's got frostbite on her attacks as well as an AP and anti-infantry characteristic. Again, she's not meant for combat, so it's going to be weird how they kind of trick this one out, because even the Fear Frost, reading it myself, I'm like, doesn't make a whole ton of sense for a mage, but I'm really curious to see what they would do with the Fear Frost. Maybe it causes fear with a name like Fear Frost, who knows. Her other magic item, though, the Crystal Cloak. A swirling mist of dancing ice crystals surrounds the Tzarina, warding off the most serious of injuries and confounding her foes' attempts to strike her. The Crystal Cloak grants the Tzarina a 4-up ward save. I mean, so we would probably look at this as a pretty moderate to substantial ward save for her, depending on how this would work out. In addition, all attacks directed against the Tzarina in close combat suffer a -1 to both the to hit and to wound dice, meaning this would increase probably her melee defense, which is her likelihood to get hit, and maybe her, I don't want to say outright armor, or maybe, yeah, maybe it could just be a bonus to armor, melee defense, and a ward save to really kind of help her survivability. And that would make some sense, because she is, like I said, she's not meant to tango in the hand-to-hand combat. So she would need to have some sort of mechanic that helps keep her alive, even if they made Fear Frost being a somewhat defensive ability. That might make a little bit more sense, because their special rules are more, again, army-based, not necessarily her-based, where you've got some of their characters with their special rules say, oh, this character can now do this, and this. These special rules for Tzarina are, hey, my Kislevites are stronger, my Griffin Legion, I can take more of them, stuff like that. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this little trip into our Kislev Legendary Lords. We got another one we're going to talk about here soon. We'll go into some ice magic so you can get a sense for how strong Tzarina Katarin will be. I actually really enjoy ice magic. I don't want to spoil it too much, but we'll talk more about that in our next video on ice magic coming out here pretty soon. We haven't done a Lore of Magic video lately, so I think we're past due, as it were. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Let me know about anything you want to hear from Kislev. I can help get that out to you guys ASAP. We'll have some more goodies here planned for you, including that nightly orders video coming out here as well. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good one, and take care.